Prepare yourself for an evening filled with paranormal, special guests, interviews, haunting stories, creatures of the unknown, and tales that will chill you to the bone. Brought to you by the UPRN Network and Pittsburgh Paranormal Society. Take a walk into the night with Shawn Kelly.
Good evening. This is welcome to Into the Night with Shawn Kelly, and I just want to, say a little thing before I introduce my guest. I've been talking about mental illness every time before I start my show, and I just want to rehash it and to say that with my problem, I'm doing okay. The medication is working. Doctor gave me a good bill of health, but you know what? It's okay for me to, take some medication for, my depression, my anxiety, my stuff like that. So I'm there with you guys who are having a problem with mental problems, so that's where I'm at with myself tonight. But I also want to tell you too that I might not know you, I might not see you, I might never ever talk to you. But you can count on one thing about me. I do care for you. And I want you to know that because you are a special person. Okay. Well, tonight I got a great show. I got, when I first started with Chasing Prophecy and we got on Joe's UPRN 105, my guest tonight, Lori, the angel rocker, she opened her arms to me, and I was first guest for her, or for me on her set, what I mean? And she's a really lovely lady, and she's very, very helpful, very caring, and Lori, I want to welcome you to the show.
Well, thank you, and thank you for having me. And yes, you know what it is? I know what it feels like to be the new guy, or new no matter what it is. I also want to give you, huge props for talking about your personal issue that you're going with, because a lot of people are going through this right now with mental health issues. I'm also a registered nurse on top of everything else I do. So my heart goes out to you, and I give you major kudos for letting people know that you do care. And he does. He's such a caring person, everybody. It's like we knew each other, right? Like we just started talking when I met you, and then
oh yeah,
like you were on my show.
My twin. You're my twin. You could be my twin. I mean, in one of them backlights. You know what I mean? Maybe we're brother and sister or something. But we just think on the same level there.
I think you're an empath. We've talked about it, and I do.
Extremely an empath, and. Don't know how to shut it off. And, it's funny that you said that, because there are times as I started taking the medication and really looking into it, and being the strong empath I am, I have a big feeling that it is part of my mental illness of being an empath, because no matter how hard I try to shake off other people, it just seems like it just comes on stronger. They
seem to almost go hand in hand with a lot of people that are very, very sensitive empathically, and a lot of anxiety, depression, a lot of feelings too that just seem to come on. And it's like, where did this come from? And trying to separate who you are and your own feelings versus what you're feeling, right? Like you're feeling it, but it'll come out of nowhere, right? Like you'd be walking along and all of a sudden you feel like you got hit by a truck. Because I'm
honest
also
to God,
and you're like, what the heck is this?
Right, and because there's times when, sorry for interrupting you.
No worries.
But there are times where I'm just there at work, right? Cutting meat, getting bloody, cutting meat. And all of a sudden I burst out into tears.
Yeah.
For no reason at all.
I teach
Um,
people. Well, I'll tell people if people haven't met me before. I'm Laura Lee Potvin. I'm from Canada. I am the host of the Angel Rock on Monday nights from 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm also a psychic medium, a crystal Reiki energy healer. I'm an Akashic Records practitioner, a spiritual teacher and mentor, and I also am a nurse. So that's why I say I really do get this. Plus, both of my sons have gifts as well, but one of them is so classically an empath. And many people that I meet, Shawn, like
mhm,
yourself, these are some of the things I mentor people with about, because a lot of people feel that being an empath is a curse. They really do.
mhm.
Like you say, you're sitting there minding your own business, and all of a sudden you're breaking into tears.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
So I look at it as a superpower. And once we learn how to manage it, I find that, you know what, you always know when someone's lying to you.
Mhm. Yeah.
You pick up things about people. You're not going inside people's heads, but you just intuitively know. It's energy, right? Everything's energy on this planet. So you
Exactly.
know. Hmm.
But that's what you said about having a superpower, which is true
Hmm.
because I'll be at work and I know when that person's mad. I know when that person's happy.
Hmm.
I know when they don't like me and stuff
Hmm.
like that. And they get upset at me because I call them on it. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? It's like, or they try to act like, you know what? Nah, you're wrong. You're wrong. You're wrong. But deep down,
You know you're not.
I know I'm not.
No.
But to you though, tell us about your show.
Okay, so my show, I always say, covers all aspects of the supernatural. My partner, the Dell, who has a delicious recipe on this network on Thursday nights, used to be Tuesday nights. You guys swapped
Yeah,
spots.
we swapped it.
We lived in an extremely, extremely, extremely haunted house. We actually shared our experience on season 4, episode 9 on Paranormal Survivor called Demonic Hauntings.
Hmm.
So, with my show, I say I cover all aspects of the supernatural. So sometimes it's UFOs, it's aliens, it could be Bigfoot, could be cryptics, could be the real paranormal. And then there's other times with being a light worker or a light warrior, as
Right.
the term may be, I also cover things like chakras and energy and the power of the mind and power of positivity, the law of attraction. And then I also throw in a little bit of truth seeking because I consider myself not quite planned, but it kind of worked out this way as an activist right now. And I think we need more people sort of stepping up and
Right.
never pushing our views on other people, but I'm finding there's a lot of newly awakened people with what's going on in the world in the last 2 years.
Hmm.
And you just like, what do I do with this? Where do I go? So I have
That,
people like that on there. Like I have doctors that talk about, what they're finding in the research and what have you. Mm.
but that's like so cool. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, honest to God, I admire this woman because there are
Oh,
times
you're so sweet.
that I'm being honest with you. I just listened to her show and she's always happy. And my gosh, look, I mean, happiness. And like, honestly, Lori, I talk about it like when I wouldn't have a guest and I would just start talking, whatever my mouth would say. And I believe that everybody should be happy. Okay.
Hmm.
One day, I ask everybody one day to be happy.
Hmm.
And I ask them to make somebody else's day happy, you know.
I'm a big believer in that, especially I always say that like things like random acts of kindness,
Mhm.
that's a gift to yourself. And especially you don't have to tell the world about it, but when you do that for somebody, and I'm going
Mhm.
to give you an example. One day I was having kind of a rough day, and we've got Tim Hortons up here in Canada. I know there's some places in the US that there's Tim Hortons as well.
Mhm.
And I decided I was going to treat myself to a coffee. So I waited in line in my car all the way through the drive-through. And as I pulled up, the lady said, "Here's your coffee. It's free." I said, "It's free? Why?" And she said, "Oh, the guy ahead of you just paid for your coffee." I don't know who that person was. I
Right.
literally was in tears because I could
Mhm.
not believe somebody would do that. And I never really thought of it myself. So if I have a little extra money, it doesn't happen all the time, but if I do, or I've got a free punch on my card or whatever, I do the same now. I pay it forward. And
I
that's the beauty about kindness, right? Once you do it, it
absolutely,
has ripples.
absolutely, because that's what I do, and I truly believe that all empaths are like that. It's
Hmm.
like we tend to go out and help people
Hmm.
the best that we can, but it's real hard for us to accept help.
Thank you. You're reading my mind, Shawn, because I was just thinking about that. And I think that's a big part of the puzzle there
Right,
that we miss out, or people that are real givers, right?
right.
And I just used this example today. I was talking to someone, actually, that was a previous guest of mine. We're friends now. And I was saying that, a lot of people are very good at giving, those that have that kind of heart. But
Hmm.
then there are people that, and I was one of them, that say a friend calls you up and maybe they've got a little bit more money than you do, maybe you're having a hard time, and they say, hey, I want to take you out to a nice restaurant and I'm going to pay for it. Most of us would say, right, oh, no, 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 you don't have to do that, please don't do that, no, and I would even feel bad about it,
Right,
realizing that this person was coming from a place of love. They didn't want anything in return. There were no strings attached, and they really meant it. They really wanted to do it. So those are the kind of things where we sometimes have to realize that whether you want to look at it as the universe, your creator, whatever it is, somebody is giving you a gift, and it's
right.
okay to say yes, because that way, right, we live in a 3D existence here on this planet.
Hmm.
So we always can't give, give, give. We've also got to be
Oh
open
yeah,
to
you have to keep the rotation going.
hmm
You
hmm
give, but you also need to receive. And
hmm
and that's a couple things I'm going to talk about, like a couple stories that happened to me. I also do readings, okay?
hmm
And a lot of people come up and ask me for a reading, and the first thing out of their mouth is, how much do you charge?
hmm
And I say, well, my going rate is this,
hmm
but do you have a penny on you?
hmm okay.
And they'll say, and I said, okay, I'll do it for a penny. And I would give them just to keep that energy going,
hmm
And
hmm
also, it's like if they had no money and I knew they were desperately needing a reading,
hmm
okay, um, they go, well, how can I pay you? I said, you know what? The next person you see, just make
hmm
them smile. Just make them smile.
hmm
Make them happy, and you paid me. You know what I mean? So,
I've done that before, and I do a lot of free things. The one thing I don't do is I do not charge for anything that help with the paranormal.
right.
Um, because
Me neither.
most people, you know this too, Shawn, most people we meet that are going through an experience with an
Hmm.
entity, whether it be a poltergeist or something negative, whatever it may be, a lot of people, it affects them financially too. It affects all aspects of your
Oh
life.
my God, yeah,
hmm
absolutely. But
So
I'm,
I don't charge
yeah,
for that. I don't charge for that, but I do charge. I had a long time. I had a lot of, sort of making peace with what I charge. But I'm with you, and I have done this with people.
right.
If somebody really needs something and they can't afford it, yes, I have said that to them as well. You know what? Just pay it forward to the next person. I'll give you an
Exactly.
example. This isn't even a reading, okay?
Hmm.
I'm not tooting my own horn. But last Christmas, I was driving, I think it was Christmas shopping or something, and I ran into a convenience store. And this young man said to me, do you know where the bus station is? I said, oh, well, it's just blah, blah, blah. And he said, well, I'm not from here. So I was still waiting in line, and I gave him the phone number, and he couldn't get through. And for whatever reason, he came and talked to me. And then what he told me was he was trying to get home to see his son for Christmas. He was coming from way out west in Canada. He had
Hmm.
gotten into a car accident with his car about 3 hours away. A transport truck driver had dropped him off in our city. We're right in the middle of Canada,
Wow.
on Lake Superior. We're about 6 hours north of Minneapolis, Minnesota. So this poor gentleman, he kept trying to call. I kept trying to find, somebody, somehow, some way he could get there. He had very little money. And so I know where I live, there's a crossroads with the highway. So there's tons of transports at a Walmart very close to my house. So what I did was, I said, why don't I give you a ride there? I bet you'll be able to find a guy he was going to Montreal, which is quite far away from where
Right.
I live. I
Hmm.
said, I bet you're going to find somebody there. But as we're leaving, and I'm very clairaudient, so I can hear spirit.
Right.
And I thought, my God, I bet you this guy hasn't eaten. And he hadn't. And I,
Right.
I mean, I'm not wealthy. So I said, are you hungry? And he said, yeah, I am. And I said, well, you know what? There's a Wendy's right across. I said, it's not much, but you know what? Like, I only have a little bit of cash on me, and I didn't know this guy. He could have done anything to me.
Right.
And he was in tears when I bought him that hamburger. He
Hmm.
he ate it so quickly, and I said, a little tip. Wendy's has that wonderful value meal. I said it's like a $2 burger and it's got everything on it that you need. At least you'll fill your stomach up.
Right.
So I did drop him off at Walmart. There were a ton of transports. When I came back from my shopping, I couldn't find him. So I'm
Mhm.
praying and hoping. I still think of him. This was last year. But my whole point was he kept saying, well, how can I repay you? How can I repay you? And I said, you don't have to pay me anything. You don't have to repay me anything. But
Mhm.
next time you meet somebody, and you'll have that opportunity one time where maybe they need some help, maybe just take the time to maybe, if you can find it in your heart, to help them,
Right.
right?
Oh, of course.
Hmm.
And that's how I deal with it, and I know me and you, if we
Hmm.
wanted to be greedy, okay,
Hmm.
I'll tell you a story. Um, I start out, I got good, and I had an ego, and I got on the psychic hotlines, right? I started to work on them. I'm not going to
Hmm.
mention it, which one, but this lady, she called me from Arizona, and of course, you know how much they charge, right? It was a lot of money for an hour, right?
Hmm.
So I figured, okay, I called, did our hour, and I hung up. And here she called again,
Hmm.
and she wanted another reading.
Hmm.
And as I'm said, I'm sorry, but I can't do that for you. I already gave you a reading, and I'm feeling so guilty because I'm giving this girl a meeting. The company's taking her money, right? And I'm like, I can't do this. I can't do this. And then in the back of my mind, I'm just like, okay, I'm listening to her, and she's like lonely, lonely. She
Hmm.
wanted to talk to somebody.
Yeah.
And I said, I got to go. So I hung up the phone, and 5 minutes later, I called the company and I said, you know what? God gave me this gift to help people,
Hmm.
not to take the monies.
Hmm.
And ever since that, you know. But and when I do stuff for people, good things happen to me.
Well,
Okay.
that's how it works, right?
Right.
And it's
Exactly.
the same thing. I don't practice witchcraft. I don't
Mm-mm.
judge other people. I say it's not my job to judge.
Right.
But
Exactly.
somebody had asked me, they were wanting to do something to bind somebody that's in power. That's all I'll say. And I said, no, I'm sorry. No, thank you. I want no part of this. And I
Hmm.
reminded them that what we put out there, and I believe this, especially if you're going to be practicing witchcraft, from what I understand, and I
Hmm.
have no problem with it. You go
Right.
do you, whatever you need to do, but you're going to get it back to you 3 to 10 times what you put out there.
Hmm.
So to me, and again, we live in a world of light and dark, hot and
Right.
cold, night and
Hmm.
day. So I think it works kind of both ways. What you put out, with love and with the highest, somebody's highest good in mind,
Hmm.
that will eventually come back to you. It does. I don't
Oh,
think
yeah.
you're not going to think that I'm going to do this because it's going to come back to me 3 times, you
Right.
know.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I think that that's something that we have to consider, because in this field you got to educate yourself about all
Hmm.
kinds of things. And I think that
Oh,
when you start
exactly.
getting into dark things, especially, there's always a price to pay. You
You
got to
know,
be
it's
really
funny.
careful.
It's funny that you say that because I started PPS in 2006.
Hmm.
And basically, what it was to do was go to a cemetery or go to a place where so called cryptids are, whatever, just to do something on a Saturday night, right?
Hmm.
And then in October of 2006, I actually got to do a house.
Hmm.
Okay, I had went to a client's house and I cleared the house.
Hmm.
I don't know how I did it. I just closed my eyes and I was like, okay,
Hmm.
do whatever. Well, and then from there, that's when it took off. You
Hmm.
know, it took off really quick, really fast, and it was funny as years went by with the group. And I was working with a lot of clients. It seemed like Spirit would always put a teacher in front of me.
Yeah.
Okay, he would put a teacher because I remember my dear friend Penny, God bless her. She taught me about Greek mythology. She taught me about Wicca. She taught
Right.
me about the dark
Hmm.
and the good. Don't get me wrong. She taught me about the good and dark and good, and I learned so much from
Hmm.
her. But it was time. where her time was done. And then the following year, another teacher came in
Mm-hmm.
and taught me more. And then another teacher. And it's just crazy because no matter how hard I tried to have a personal life, okay, I mean, honestly, I don't know if you ever felt this way, but there were times I just wanted to be normal. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I wanted to be a normal human being,
Yep.
you know, and go out on a date and please do not talk ghosts, do not talk paranormal, do
Mm-hmm.
not talk none of this crap, you know, and um, I tell you what, it never happened.
Mm-hmm.
And I was getting mad at Spirit. Oh my God, was I mad? Because I said, come on, come on, come on, you know,
I
let
want to
me have
meet
a,
somebody and have a normal
yeah,
life.
let me have a life. And then I realized that Spirit said, no, you can't. And he said, because if I put somebody in your life, then the path that I chose you to go on, you would leave.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean?
That's interesting because I look at it a little differently. Hi, hi, Robert, Albert Roberts.
Hey,
Excuse me,
Robert.
Shawn.
Hey,
Okay, so
Robert.
how? And again, I always say none of us are going to know the answer till we transition back home.
Hmm.
But I always believe that everybody's here for a reason, and that we've chosen certain lessons for our soul to learn while we're here to evolve. We have the choice to screw it all back, all up, and not do it. You're probably going to come back and redo it again if you don't.
Hmm.
But I hear what you're saying, but I wonder if maybe it was something you chose before, and your guide is here with you to help you.
Hmm.
But where you were at the time was where you were meant to be. And I hear
Right.
what you're saying that if you found a significant other that could really pull you off your path, and there was probably a lot of people that needed your help, Shawn. And so
Hmm.
I understand the message that you were getting.
Right.
Um, Same thing with ego. I wanted to say this. Now, this is an interesting perspective because I've been hearing this a lot lately. And that's the one thing I always pay attention to when something comes into my field more than once, probably two or three times in a short period of time. It's something to pay attention for myself. And this is coming up. And again, I don't consider myself always right, but I believe we have an ego for a reason.
Hmm.
Okay, we all have it. And when we get into this field as empaths and light workers, we're told you've got to banish the ego, get rid of the ego. Okay, I think the ego is there for a reason. So, I also teach a lot about shadow work, when we're
Hmm.
getting into healing work and things like that. And if we really think about it, as a human being, we have the potential to be everything. Meaning, we can be looking at a serial killer over there and thinking, oh, like someone I used, Jeffrey Dahmer today, I was having this conversation. And we all look at him and are absolutely abhorred at what he did, and rightfully so.
Hmm.
But in the right situation, anybody could be driven to do something horrific, or we've all felt hatred at one time, or what have
Right.
you, right?
Right.
So, as much I think whenever we try to banish something, like we try to, no, no, we're not going to deal with this, no, it's going away, I'm pushing it to the back, it always seems to creep back up on you and
Oh
get
my
back
God,
in there.
yes, all the time.
So I have a mentor, it was my Akashic Records practitioner, and I've worked with many, many mentors and teachers too. And I really love what she said when she was teaching us how to access the Akashic Records. And she said, I'm going to talk to you about something a little different. How about we try and make friends with the ego? So what she does when we get into the way I've been shown how to access the records is we invite our egos to be a sidelong participant so they feel like they're included, because it really is part of our whole self. Sounds a little crazy, like we're treating it like a sidekick, but so
Hmm.
basically you're acknowledging the ego that it's there,
Right.
letting it know, if I really did need you and call
Hmm.
you in, but I want you to be there. I'm not banishing you, but just to sit on the sidelines and just so you know that you're included. And
Hmm.
what that is, I think, is just something for the subconscious to hang on to. Because if you think about it, the ego is there, and I really believe this, to keep us safe, right? That's where fear
You know
comes
what?
from.
Yeah,
Hmm.
that's a good point.
Hmm.
Like with ego, like you were saying that they did teach us you got to be totally humble and when you do something like this, right?
Hmm.
When I go to a client's house, and I clear a demon or I clear a ghost, right?
Mhm.
Or, you know, I might not express my
Mhm.
ego, but deep down inside in my brain, I'm like, yeah, I did a good job.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that because
No.
that's human nature. So that's what I'm saying. Even as a healer, when I'm doing energy work and things like this, and I come from a big pharma background, and I always, unless it's something life-threatening, I always try to use something natural if I can. I'm not giving medical advice, it's just something I do.
Hmm.
But it's the whole bit with this, right? Like I think
Right.
we have to embrace it all, who we are.
Hmm.
Okay.
Exactly.
And when we're healing, that's where I was going with this. So I lost my train of thought for a sec. I believe that the human body is capable of healing itself. It is miraculous. It is incredible. But because of what we encounter energetically, spiritually, could be something from a past life, could be trauma. A lot of it we pick up and we don't even realize. And when I say this, I'm not pointing fingers at parents or blaming
Hmm.
this on anybody, but children from the age of 0 to 7 years of age are like sponges. They
Oh my
pick
God,
up
yeah. Hmm.
everything, and they don't have the experience or the knowledge to sometimes understand something that they've picked up. A lot of our beliefs come from there, a lot of our
Hmm.
fears, all
Right.
kinds of things. And then if you hang on to that and we're not able to clear it, or everybody's gone through trauma or something really painful, and depending on what type of person you are, a lot of people think, especially men, that it's not okay to cry, or, we're going to stuff that down and man up or whatever. Well, you're not dealing with it. Everything's energy on this planet.
Exactly.
Without
Yes.
getting really woo woo, I'm going to science here. Everything on this planet is energy, including our thoughts, our emotions, and our words. So I truly believe that that is some of the things that help lend itself to disease. And when you start breaking down some of these diseases,
Hmm.
and looking at them. And again, this is with no blame. Like, somebody that has cancer, this isn't your fault that you got cancer.
Right.
No, but there's a lot of emotion with the energy that when they've looked into this, a lot of things with quantum physics are actually starting to prove a lot of these things. So,
Well, I'll be honest with you. I mean, quantum physics, I hear a lot about it,
mhm.
but I just don't quite understand it. Maybe someday someone will
I
be
don't
putting.
everything either. Physics was not my strong suit
Mm-mm.
for I have a Bachelor of Science degree with my nursing degree, but
Hmm.
believe me, physics was not my strong suit. But there are certain things, like I'll get people that'll call me for a reading that live in my city, and they'll say, well, do I come to your house or do you come to mine? And I say, no, we're not going anywhere. We're going to do it over video.
Right.
Well, don't I need to be right in front of you? No, you don't.
No.
Because every now and then I
No.
haven't had time in the last year, but normally what I'll do, if I'm free, say on a weekend night or something, I'll just go live and do free one question readings.
Right.
And this person that asked me this has been there during these readings. I said, you've seen me do readings for people over in the UK or Australia. Like I said, you don't need to be in the same space. So those are the things that I talk about with quantum physics, because it's not a matter of understanding it. It's that
Right.
you read the article, and they've been able to prove there's no difference between face to face versus 500 miles. That
Right.
doesn't
And
happen.
how about with me, right?
Hmm.
And it's really weird. Um, like I'll be sleeping or just working or walking around or what, and then all of a sudden I just feel my spidey senses come on
I
one
call it
part of
that
the
too.
body, right?
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, I know who that is,
Hmm.
and they hit this, it's another person that hits another part of my body. It's like, I know who this is. And I think that is like really, really cool because I know that, somebody's thinking about me. But that's when I really go into empathic work, like, all right, who's coming in on my space? Who's thinking of me? And then, so whenever this hits, it's my very good friend.
Hmm.
And if something hits like this, it's like maybe, but
Hmm.
I mean, it's
Yeah,
just.
but you know what your signs are, right? And you
Mhm.
know what you're like. I always say when I'm giving a message from spirit, I'm doing a reading or whatever it may be, and I get absolute goosebumps. That's
Right.
my sign for truth. I know that there's
Hmm.
absolute truth to it.
Right.
So it's really interesting that way. I want to ask you something.
Hmm.
What's your thoughts on collectively with the energy that we're seeing globally right now with what's going on? Are you finding in your area or where you are, what you're dealing with, a lot more paranormal activity and really strange
Oh,
things?
yes, yes,
Me too.
yes, absolutely. And it's like, and I tell people, even like I was telling a couple people the other day, because they're like thinking, oh my God, I got all this paranormal activity happening, all these ghosts, everything is happening, blah, blah, blah.
Hmm.
And I said, well, you know what? Look at it, right? I mean, spirits, they feed off of energy.
Yeah.
Okay. And with the global going around and all that bullshit that's going on out there in the world, a lot of people are angry, they're mad, you know,
Depressed,
yes, depressed, anxiety, whatever.
suicidal.
So look at all that energy that's out in the universe. I mean, it's like a beacon for everything out there to come in. And I feel bad for the people who don't really understand what, like someone, I got goosebumps right now. But it's like I really feel for the people who don't really understand what is happening
Mhm.
to them, and then all of a sudden something bad comes in on them. And I'm not talking demonic, I'm just talking
Mhm.
a bad spirit, because I
Yep.
really believe in my heart that if you were a really bad person living, you're a bad person when you're a spirit.
It's almost like it's magnified, I've seen too. Like if they were a real SOB in life, yeah, it's like it becomes magnified because they've got extra ability,
Right.
really, from not being in an earthly body, and they know they do. Mhm, I
Yeah,
agree with you.
exactly. And that's why, it's funny because I work at a grocery store, all
Hmm.
right, and I cut meat, and it's a decent sized grocery store, and we get a lot
Hmm.
of people. And if I'm bored in the back, I'll just step outside the meat room
Yeah,
and I'll just look at people, and I'm like, haha, okay, you
you
better
got
watch.
something attached. Yeah,
Yeah.
I tell
Oh
you,
my
and you
God,
can
it's terrible.
see it and you can feel it. And you know what I'm going to tell you, Shawn? I've often said, again, being in the light worker field, and I've met so many people in this field. Well, I've never had to deal with anything negative. Really? Oh my,
Bullshit.
I mean, no, I'm serious because um, this started all for me with this dream that happened 15, 16 years ago, like it happened
Mhm.
10 minutes ago. It identified itself as something demonic. It gave me its name. It gave me its animal form. Now
Oh
I'm getting
wow.
goosebumps. Oh, I didn't tell you this story. I'll tell you
No,
because
no,
it's
no, no.
interesting.
Yes, share
Okay.
this story for my viewers. I want to
Oh,
hear this.
okay. So I'll tell you this story. It's quite interesting. So what happened was when I first hurt my back, because I still have my license, I still keep up in nursing, but I've been off for a long time, and I was in bed for almost 20 years with my back.
Hmm.
TV gets old
Yes.
very quickly. So what I was doing was I like to create. I love making things with my hands, crafting, whatever. And so had this little business where I was making little dog accessories and, little cute little pet things. So when I could get up and I run around to some local stores here, they all seem to all of a sudden want to carry all my merchandise, but they didn't want a commission.
Right.
And at that time, I was still married to my first husband. And we had just watched the movie The Secret that had come out. So, like I said, this is about 15, 16 years ago. And I remember saying to him, this is incredible. Like, why don't they want any money? And
Hmm.
I remember my ex-husband saying, his name's Earl. We're on good terms, so he's heard this story before, so he won't mind if I tell it. And I remember him saying to me, well, maybe it's the secret. Maybe it's the law of attraction. So I went to bed that night, and at that time, I didn't really remember a lot of my dreams. But in my old house, there was this tree in the front yard. And in this dream, I was in the front yard. And I remember this, like I said, like it happened 10 minutes ago. There was a man as I looked up in the tree, and I always say I'm not like a high maintenance kind of girl, but you could tell he had a very expensive, dark charcoal gray pinstripe suit on. He had a very crisp white shirt, black tie. He had black slick back hair to about
Oh my
here,
God.
and he had a goatee and mustache, all black in one piece, but not long. But it was his face. It was like this sickly, kind of pasty, white green. And then I saw his eyes, and his eyes were completely black, and then they went to flame.
Hmm.
And I can't say on radio what I said to him, but I said, "Who are you? And what are you doing here?" And he said, "Well, you know that little business that you've got, Laura Lee? That's nothing." He said, "If you know, I could give you wealth, I could give you fame, I can give you anything beyond your wildest dreams. All you have to do is agree to follow me." And this is not radio friendly what I said, but in no uncertain terms, I told him to get out, to leave immediately. I wanted no part of it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I said, "Who are you?" He proceeded to tell me his name after
Mm-hmm.
telling me he was a demon. He spelt it, and again, in unfriendly, I won't use the not radio friendly terms, but more emphatically, I told him where to go.
Right.
And very condescendingly, he went, "Oh, no, 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 no. I'm not going anywhere.
Uh-huh.
Every time you see a crow or a raven, you'll know who it is."
Mm-hmm.
And I just at that time started looking into angel cards and things like that. And I remember calling on Archangel Michael in the dream, and there was this brilliant flash of royal blue, silver, and white. I woke up completely in a sweat, shaking and crying, and I'm not a crier.
Right.
After that, very shortly after, my marriage broke up. Dell and I got together. I've known him my whole life. We were just friends, didn't plan to get together, but we did.
Mm-hmm.
All heck broke loose after that. But the thing is, I had been raised Roman Catholic my whole life. I'd been
Mm-hmm.
forced to go to Catholic school, church. I'd never heard this name I had been given. And I have
Mm-hmm.
all kinds of books as we do when we do what we do with our work. And I'm called the Angel Rock because I do work with the archangelic realm and other beings in light on that side. Love
Mm-hmm.
crystals and love rock music. That's why I'm called the Angel Rock. Anyway, so I looked through all my books. I couldn't find this name. I had never heard this name. And then the more I say I don't want to work with this dark stuff, what do I get? People that have very dark, 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 dark stuff contact me.
Right.
So somebody contacted me. This is about probably about 4 or 5 years ago, and they said they had had a dream. Something was getting at them to try and invoke it. Did I know if this was something demonic? And I remember saying at the time, well, this isn't my field of expertise, but let me take a look for you. And Shawn, I just about fell off my chair because when I found this name,
Mm-hmm.
I found the name from my dream almost a decade before, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And there was the exact spelling I had been given, the exact animal form I had been given, and
Mm-hmm.
every one of these entities has a sigil, right?
Right.
Well, what had happened probably a couple months before, because we had crazy activity in our house. Dell's been thrown 15 feet across the kitchen. We've been bit, we've been scratched, we've been
Mm-hmm.
burnt. Other people have been affected. Anyways, everything in my house broke too. And there was nothing wrong with it. Brand new repairman would come, didn't know what was wrong, didn't know why it would work. So I had a newer stove. And one of my sons has autism. He only eats 6 foods. So he eats chicken nuggets and french fries. So I had the broiler on. I was cooking his dinner because that's all that would work in the oven.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, as I went to take it out, the oven door slammed shut on my arm. And I'm thinking, did the dog hit? Like, what happened? And a really bad burn. And being a nurse, you know how burns work.
Right.
So this burn never bubbled. It was so painful. And it would just look silver for about 12 hours. Then it went completely black, almost like a brand. And
Mm-hmm.
I swear to God, too, Shawn, it almost looked like the outside of the sigil of this thing.
Oh my God, that's
Mm-hmm.
crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
You say that you deal with you called upon Michael,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, when I go and do what I do, I call on Uriel.
Nice.
Yes, and it's funny because Uriel keeps me in check too sometimes, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I get ridiculous, then I know he's there and he just overpowers me. Like,
He just might be your archangel because I've met many people. Because people, I've met people that have been taught, no, the archangel realm doesn't work with us, blah, blah, blah.
no, it
I
does.
have met people that have. And actually, one of the courses I took with one of my mentors with angels, she said, looking at people's personalities, we're almost considered like the grandchildren, if you will, like the
Right.
generation of archangels. And you can
Hmm.
see what archangel they connect with. So it almost sounds like probably with
He
Uriel,
is.
that's who
Yeah,
you're
he is.
connected with.
Wherever I go, He does,
Hmm.
and it makes me feel comfortable. Now, a lot of people that I talk to that say, well, why don't you use Michael? Why don't you use Michael? Because Michael's not for me.
No, and if
You're,
it works,
you know what I
if it
mean?
ain't broke, don't fix it.
Exactly. And every now and then, Gabriel comes in on the
Hmm.
play. I'll ask for him to come along just in case
Hmm.
it's a little. But it's funny when I go under to look for the bad spirit or the demon that I'll be duking it out with, right? Um, Remember Adam's family, Uncle Fester?
Yes, yes.
Okay, it's weird because every time I see Uncle Fester, when I'm out there meditating and I'm out there fighting, I
Hmm.
know it's the demon. I know it's the bad spirit.
So
It's really,
that's what you see.
yeah, it's Uncle
Interesting.
Fester. Yeah. And I also have, I'd like to share a story with you.
Hmm.
When I first started getting into the spiritual business,
Hmm.
I it was funny. I was in a bookstore,
Hmm.
and I never go into bookstores. I can't even read.
Hmm.
I comprehend how to read. And so it was a metaphysical store, and
Hmm.
all of a sudden, honest to God, this book just jumped off the rack and into my hand,
Oh, I love it.
and his it was Black Elk,
Hmm.
the Lakota Sioux shaman,
Okay.
and I'm like, okay, and I started reading, and then I was so interested that I learned more about the Lakota Sioux spirituality and what
Hmm.
they did. So, I was new at meditating, and I
Hmm.
finally connected with Black Elk. And so, whenever I went into meditation, we always went down. It's really pretty because we always walked down a path, and there was a lake, and it
Right.
was always dark with a lot of stars, and it was like mountains surrounded this lake, right?
Hmm.
So we're sitting there. He's not talking to me, and I'm thinking I did something wrong. He's
Hmm.
just like, and then all of a sudden, two dolphins come out of the lake.
Oh, how beautiful.
And he said, go to the dolphins.
Hmm.
And so I obeyed everything he told me to do, you know.
Hmm.
And so what happened was the dolphins swam around and they came under my arms,
Hmm.
right? And they took me down in the water. Okay.
Interesting.
Oh, it gets even more interesting. Okay. So the dolphins are taking me down, and we get to the center of the earth, to the core.
Hmm.
And there's a like cave, like an
Yep.
opening into the cave. And there's like great whites all around, all
Hmm.
great white sharks are all around. And then when I came in with the dolphins, right, they just separated. They just like,
Interesting.
so I walked through, and I can tell you, it was orange, and it looked like something like if you saw in a cave with stellanites, I think they're
Yeah,
called.
stalactites
Yeah,
and stalagmites. Yeah.
yeah, but it was all orange. And so I'm walking this path, and this little dog comes up to me, right?
Hmm.
Little puppy,
Yeah.
little puppy, and he just followed me wherever I was walking, and then I saw her. I saw Mother Earth,
Oh, how
like
beautiful.
like I was facing you to you.
Hmm.
And I won't get into the details of what our conversation was,
Hmm.
but I will tell you that that little pup was a gift from her to me.
Oh,
And that little pup was a wolf.
I knew you were gonna say it. I knew you were gonna tell me it was a wolf. I
He was a
knew it.
little
I
wolf.
knew it. Hmm.
And and I named him Lakota,
Okay.
okay, because of Lakota Sioux, okay.
Hmm.
And he has never left my side to
That's
this
what I was
day.
gonna ask you. Is he one of your spirit animals?
Yes, he's my number.
Okay.
He's the alpha, and the female is a red tail hawk. Because
Beautiful.
yes, whenever I'm out, they're around. They circle,
Hmm.
and no matter where I go, they're circling. And
Hmm.
so I just sit back and look for the answer. You know what I mean? Wait for the
You
answer.
know what the beautiful thing about this is, and there'll be people that'll hear this and think, "Oh my God, what the heck was Shawn on?" That's
Right.
not what happens when you meditate. And I tell people, no, you don't have to sit there for hours in the lotus position and, sit on top of a mountain like you see, like all these gurus. Like, I even teach people, if you only got 5 minutes, a couple times a day or 3 times a day or whatever,
Right.
once you start to get into that space, anything like that can happen. Crystals can amplify it hugely. Spirit will hold classes with you and
Right.
meditation, because I always, and I believe this, that we all have guides, we all have angels.
Mm-hmm.
And I say to people, whether you believe in them or not, they believe in you, and they're here to help you, meaning the
Right.
global you, succeed at whatever you've chosen to be part of your life lessons coming here.
Right.
So, like when you said, when someone touches you on your shoulder or whatever they do, you've got that agreement in whatever way you made it with your guides, because they want you to be able to understand and be able to hear them,
Right.
right? Because they
Mm-hmm.
want you to succeed. They want you to be able to do what you plan to come here to do. But what I'm saying with the meditation, and that is absolutely incredible, and what a beautiful treasure to experience,
Thank you.
is that anybody can have, it's not going to be like your experience,
Right.
but have incredible experiences like this. I haven't done it on this network, but on my old network. I don't have any of my archives, unfortunately. I used to do a show Monday through Friday, same name, Angel Rock. And, some nights I didn't have a guest. So I did a guided meditation like that.
Mm-hmm.
Not about Gaia, but the way I like to do things with people is I like to guide them, whoever's listening, so that they can create the picture themselves rather than me
Right.
telling them what they need to see. But I've had mentors do this too, where they'll have you, go to a bench somewhere if you're at the beach, and whomever you see, you meet, and they'll have a gift for you. And
Mm-hmm.
and they will. Like, this is the thing. And then the love, I bet you felt, was just indescribable,
Oh,
I'm sure.
incredible. I would like to share two more stories with you. Um, the first one was, it was about 5 years ago, and my beard was out like this. I look like Santa Claus. All right,
Okay.
honest to God, I look like Santa Claus. So me and my brother are sitting down in the restaurant, got off of work, and all of a sudden I seen this little boy just keep looking at me, and I'm like smiling back, and he's smiling and all that stuff. And so they're getting up, right? And the grandma comes over to me,
Hmm.
and she says, "I need to tell you this, but my grandson thinks you're Santa Claus."
Aw.
And you know what? I played Santa Claus,
Aw.
but I wasn't dressed in the red suit. But I tell you what, every pain, every emotion, negativity, whatever, just went out the door
Yeah.
because he was handicapped.
Mhm.
Okay. And I gave him a $10 bill. I said, "Merry Christmas." You know
Aw.
what I mean? So
You
it's
must
like,
have made his world. Because I have a son that has severe autism.
right.
He's 23, and he's very much like a precocious child of the age of 5 to 7, with no disrespect. Like, when they can be a little bit independent, but they still need mom for everything, you can't leave them alone. My son will be like that for the rest of his life. But
Hmm.
I also know he's very powerful psychically, energetically. I've discovered this over the years, not because I push it on him. People trying to do energy work or what have you. When he was in the hospital, he was very sick there for a while. And somebody decided they were going to do some healing work and didn't bother asking or anything, and started to tell me as they were doing this. And I was going to say something, and then I said, well, I'll just let you know, my son's pretty powerful at this stuff. I guess he didn't believe me, and they messaged me back a half hour later. They said he wouldn't let me in. I
Hmm.
said, yeah, I know, because we had somebody locally come to our house to try and clear our house when this first started. And
Hmm.
I don't think she was in the right frame of mind. Her mom had passed away. I knew her mom when she showed up, I found out, and she was really grieving. And she told me that her guides had told her to come with everything she had. She was in for the fight of her life. Shawn, I wish I had videotaped what had happened in that house. It was insane.
Hmm.
But I remember she was having a conversation with my son, but there was no words. They were
Right. Yeah.
communicating.
Hmm. Exactly.
telepathically through the third. I don't know how they were, but my son was laughing and then she'd giggle, and it was incredible to watch.
It,
And
I have experienced that myself by
mhm,
just talk. I mean, I can look at a person, I can be in a room with a person and
mhm,
watch TV and they'll be reading a book and it'd be like, I know what we're talking.
mhm,
It's like, I don't know how it happened. What my mentor told me one time, she said to me, she said,
mhm,
whatever you hear in your head, it's not your subconscious.
mhm.
It's from somebody else giving you a message. And I always went by that.
I do too. And how I what I always say is, if you want to know whether you want to call it your guides, your subconscious, it could be somebody else sending you a message too, depending on what you
Exactly.
hear and how you
Hmm.
hear it. But I always say, and I think on last night's show, actually, I did this. I said, I'm going to give you guys a challenge that for one day, listen to that inner voice. Now, I'm talking about the inner voice. You're not going to be hearing voices. Some people do, some people hear different voices. Most
Hmm.
of the time, it's that inner voice we all hear. And I gave the example of, you've got this horrific problem. There's no solution. You're not sleeping at night. You're laying there thinking, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? There's no way out. What am I going to do? And all of a sudden, this idea pops into your head, and it's a stroke of genius. It
Hmm.
came out of nowhere, but it's the solution. You follow it, everything works out beautifully. We've had
Exactly.
these things happen, right? I believe that comes from, whether you want to call it your guides,
Hmm.
your angels. It could be coming from your higher self or your subconscious,
Right.
however you want to call it. But the thing is, I say the difference in that, when you follow that, is it's always meant with love, always meant for your highest good and somebody else's highest good. And the wording's always a little bit differently than how you might speak with your inner voice. You know what I
Exactly.
mean? Like, we've all
Hmm.
had it. It just, we don't listen to it, or we argue with it because we think it's our imagination
Right.
or it's
Exactly.
BS. Or so I challenged people last night, if they were open to it, to just
Ah.
listen to that
Well,
voice for one
listen.
day and see what happens.
Did you hear what she just said to all my viewers out there? I want you to perform that challenge tonight.
Okay.
I
Okay.
want everybody to challenge. We got about what 5 minutes left, so
Yeah, but
let
we should clarify. So when you hear your inner voice, and we all have that inner voice, okay, the only rules are that what you hear is meant with love. So it's either meant with love for yourself or whomever it may be for, that you may hear it for, and
mhm.
it's meant for either your highest good or anybody else's. So, because our ego will pop in there too sometimes. So,
Oh yeah.
but that's the voice I'm talking about, the voice of reason, or something comes up and we don't follow it because we think it's our imagination. Try it
Hmm.
and see what happens. Hmm.
I, and that's thank you for doing that. But
Hmm.
before we go, for
Hmm.
my viewers, do you have a message from Spirit to us?
Hmm. What I'm hearing is that, first of all we have is now. Okay, so if there's a lot of people out there with a lot of stress, a lot of worry, not knowing if they're going to have a job, how they're going to feed their family, whatever it may be, all we have is living in the now. But going forth with an open mind, trying to do things like meditation, relaxation, being good to yourself, practicing gratitude. Also, um, sorry, I'm listening and hearing, practicing gratitude. Okay. When people say, I don't have anything grateful to be for, we have so many things to be grateful for. Did you wake up in a bed? Were you able to breathe? You were alive. Start with little things, because the more that we're grateful for, the more that comes through. But also to go forward with love in your heart.
Hmm.
So if you're not speaking to somebody, maybe you've got a rift in your family, maybe there's a rift in a friendship. Okay, it takes two people, but to let that go, to forgive them. You don't have to say it's okay with whatever happened, but forgive them. Because when we hang on to that, okay, all it does is it just clouds up your whole mind. It doesn't leave space for other things. Plus, it's a gift to yourself. Okay, when
Hmm.
you can let that go. And I want to make it clear from Spirit that you don't have to accept what the other person did. We're not saying when we're forgiving that we're saying, yeah, it's okay that they stabbed me in the back. It's not. But to
Mhm.
let that go, to heal it with love, okay, moving forward. And I'm not being really woo-woo about this. This is coming from spirit because this is what we need. When you see injustice in the world or you see things going on, and Shawn, you said it earlier tonight, all this negativity gets fed with more negativity. It's a
Mhm.
crazy way to look at it. Send them love. Okay?
Exactly.
Hmm.
Thank you so much for that. On This has been an enjoyable hour, and
I
I'm glad
love
I had.
talking to you,
I
Shawn. Thank
do
you for
too.
having me.
Oh, I'm gonna have you on again.
I hope so. You have to come
Yes,
back on my show too.
whenever you want.
Hmm.
But you know, everybody, I want to thank you for listening tonight, and I want to thank Lori for being on.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, man, it's an honor. And I just want to wish everybody good night. And you know what? Like want to mention again, I do care about you. I really do. I
And I
do
do
care
too.
about you. And so does Lori. And everything's going to be okay. It will be okay. And with that, happy hunting. Talk to you next week. Bye.
Talk to you next week. Bye.
Joe?